Hello, everyone. This is Terry coming back at you for an observational thought. As I had mentioned the last time that I did a post, it was just some things to get off my chest. Let me go close this blind so that we can see me better. And therefore, just trying to get an idea of what is and what is not going on at this time in the world as we talk about a lot of things that I've been observing. So, first of all, I just want to say that I am so disappointed, more so than mad. I do appreciate everyone beginning to come together as a community to collect food and get people who are going to be in need help. I mean, for what it's worth, I would think that it's always best to have that community there anyway, as I've been kind of saying forever and ever. So I do have my bag of food ready to go, and I think I'm gonna end up picking up some more things to take along the way. However, so what I wanted to talk a little bit more about today is just kind of going back to the plantation ideology, as I was speaking of, and how not how we got here, but how we're still here. Just kind of maybe more conceptualizing kind of the way I frame things to make sense. So initially, when we talk about the plantation, or when I speak about the plantation, and what I mean when I speak about the plantation is that the way the American was founded. So ideally, the way we look at life is we're always looking at the big house. Everything is or the effort, the goals are always the big house and how many people are allowed to be in the big house. And so, as a black person, I've always kind of seen that kind of being like the goal. Not necessarily it is the goal, but it seems like it has been the goal as to how we're going to get from the slave quarters to the big house. And so, just kind of feeding off of a couple of comments and stuff that I've read on Facebook, or whether it's across YouTube videos that I've watched or whatever. Usually, this is where a lot of my observational thoughts come from. Is just kind of going back into the thought process of how do we get here. And again, using the analogy of the frog in the water, we've always been here. And the only thing we've done is hand over generation after generation after generation to where we got here. And I think a lot of it, like right now, everybody again is focused on Trump and what Trump is doing. Again, Trump is not doing this alone, if even at all. He's just the poster child for this destructive time. However, we do have to take this time very seriously as to how white supremacy has really blown up in the last 9 months since he got back in office. Just a couple of things I've been thinking about. So if I sound like I'm doing word vomit, I promise, I didn't want to do it this way, but it's just things that come to my mind. So initially, and I know this is probably something that's not a big surprise to anybody, but initially, how I viewed Trump being in office is that he lost, but they let him win so they can not have him and his people tear up the United States again. So basically, what I'm saying is Democrats are cowards, and I really hate them for this because I feel like Democrats have put us in this situation. I feel like they're keeping us in this situation because they're cowards. And you cannot tell me that this how this is all working out according to like the three um, levels of government, that now they got the whole chessboard. Okay, so that's number one, which is very disappointing because let them tell it, the Constitution was written for this to never happen, but yet here we are. The second thing is, what better way to bring about chaos to then execute a, um, a civil rest kind of response by starving people out? So now you create this chaotic moment where people are going to be, worrying about where their next meal is going to come from. So you can have a reason to put the National Guard out there to now kill, destroy, or whatever you want to do to people who you're starving out. And again, this is so dictatorship. I mean, this has the whole making of the Holocaust written all over it. And the sad thing about it is the fact that the United States people got duped into believing this country was more than what it was. And I'll just say for the record, because I have been somebody who has been very, very transparent in what I say, how I say it, or whatever. And I have taken a beating, whether it is people canceling me, disrespecting me, looking at me in a certain kind of way, whatever it is that I stand on what I believe. I stand on things that I hear, see, learn, read, whatever, and I just stand on what I'm about. So I'm not far off, and I know over the years I've had said many things, whether you agree with it or not. Not really my care. I mean, this is freedom of speech. This is a platform, and so therefore, if you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. That's okay. However, what I do know is where we're heading to as of 2026, it's going to get a lot more dangerous. So in the beginning, I said, "Ooh, it's going to get bad. It ain't going to get that bad. Ooh, it's going to get bad. It's not going to get that bad." Yeah, it's going to get bad because there's this frog's been in the water for a while, but because United States of America is so easily to distract, we always find ourselves back at square one with distraction. And as I was just pointing out to somebody who I was just speaking to, Trump came into this picture. He already had a plan. Example would be back in 2015 into 2016, he was talking about this a witch hunt, this a witch hunt, this a witch hunt. So he already planted this seed that anything that comes out with his name in it, it's a witch hunt. Then he was the one that planted the seed about fake news. So now it's fake news, fake news, fake news. And now look, all the news stations or the TV stations are getting attacked right now. So this frog in the water, which started off back in what 2015, if not even before then, right? Because come to think of it, where around the time when Hillary was running for office and Obama was running for office, and then when Obama became president, not a even though there was a significant amount of people who voted for him, a lot of people lost their minds when he got into office, and then he did it twice. So again, I'm not saying nothing that's new. I'm just saying to kind of recall what and how we got here. And then when Kamala Harris became vice president, it was a black woman. They really lost their minds because from growing up, when I was growing up, there was always a fear of a black planet. And so when Obama got into office, that just kind of made a scar on what the United States had always represented. And so I just want to probably reiterate, and I'm always probably restate this over and over again. Democracy was never for us. Never. And when black people run around here claiming democracy, you really being a fool, because democracy was never meant for us. And the reason why that is because when Thomas Jefferson, the godfather of white supremacy, said all men are created equal, and he had to go tell Samuel to go get him a pen, who was his property, must I mind you, then that never changed. And so and so the things that we see today are still in place from yesteryears. And it's really pathetic and unfortunate how we have allowed ourselves to be duped into this belief, because some of us made it. But I'm gonna use Jay-Z as an example, because Jay-Z ain't no fool in certain aspects. Jay-Z know where he came from and where he don't want to go back to. Okay. And most super duper rich black folks ain't doing a lot of talking, because they already know you talk, you go, because that racial double standard is always there. God giveth, God taketh away. And that's how you know that America has double standard. Now, here's another thing that I want to bring up. Back in 2016 and 17, The same thing Trump did then, he's doing now, just more aggressively. How soon we forget that Trump had Mexican children in cages before. He did that before. Now, instead of him putting kids in cages in concentration like camps, now he's kicking indoors and having them brought out. And so nothing. I mean, he's doing the same thing. And then the thing that really bothers me, what really bothers me again, this American amnesia that we have. He Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting for Trump. He gave us a stimulus check." Now he taking y'all livelihood away. First, it's going to be food share. Next, it's going to be something else. But see, here's the thing: the elitist mindset. The elitist mindset is to strip everything away, because once I take everything away from you, you got to beg me to give it back. Again, I said this last time. We are peasants, and we got played. And I know I got a wild imagination, but I think about the movie Independence Day, when the people were on top of the roof and they were like, "Yeah," screaming and stuff, and then the alien was like, "Boom." That's what stays in my mind. And also, what stays in my mind is the plantation. How there was always a sense of privileged black folks from day one. The way we were treated then and the way we're treated now is not really that far off. There was always some black folks who somehow, some way won the hearts of white folks. But however, we always still had our place. And we will always have that place because we're not allowed to speak out. And I know from somebody, and I've noticed another thing as I've been reading today, a lot of the posts. We got a hard black folks. We horrible, and I'm only speaking to us because a lot of reasons why we are still in this situation, because a lot of us who have the ability to probably get us out of this situation don't. And that goes back to the house and the field right? Nothing has changed. The HNIC. You know, there was a post that was talking about how people are like talking mess about these leaders, and that the leaders inherited all this stuff that Milwaukee got going on. First of all, the people that took over this leadership knew what was going on, and they signed up for it to not do nothing about it. And so what happens is, when you are put in a situation that you would take title over principle, then you get what you get. And how we get duped is, and I can't speak for everybody, I'm gonna speak for myself. How I got duped is thinking all skin folk is kinfolk, and y'all not. And I'm not gonna make that mistake anymore. So right now, you're right. It don't matter who's black or who's white. It don't matter. I'm looking for somebody who's gonna do the work that needs to be done. But must I mind you, for those who don't know this, and for those who are out there doing the work, because there's a lot of people doing the work, and there's a lot of people looking like they're doing the work. When I was in those rooms, sitting at those tables, saying things that needed to be said, I didn't have really nobody backing me up. And then when stuff hit the fan, I had to suffer in silence. And I'm just keeping it 100. So now, even though I do care and I have a heart, place in this community, I feel betrayed by my community as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people feel the same way, because it's like, if you don't clout chase, you just gonna be on the sidelines. And I've noticed a lot of people who are trying to get clout, and it's like, I ain't never been about that life. I never been about clout chasing. I either like you or I don't. And I'm not gonna sit up there and pretend to do something, be something I'm not, if my heart ain't all the way in it. And I know that one hardworking person in the community said your presence is stronger than your absence. but I just refuse to be sitting in a boat with a hole in it and going nowhere. When I was one of a few people who was on a committee about getting 53206 together, that went on the wayside. It was very few people. A lot of people say, a lot of us's would say, well, something's better than nothing. But let it be seen, we get more nothing than we do something. And then when stuff hit the fan, we get blamed for it. So yeah, of course, now black leadership is getting blamed for the taxes going up and everything else that's going down. And so I know that no one is totally responsible for everything that's going on, but we all play a part in it. And so going back to the churches, just thinking about historically, black churches. We have a black church. We have 10 or 15 black churches in some of the most dilapidated areas of town. That comes to question, like, why? Why do we have mega churches? Why do we have churches throughout our communities? We have more churches than we have food stores or hospitals or places of education. Why are we still in a position where the master can take from our mouths and not feed us? Why do we still have it where we stand around and watch one slave get whipped by the master so that we all can go about our merry ways and shake our head, saying that that person should have learned to keep their mouth shut when that person is usually speaking up for everybody or speaking out on behalf of everybody. And so everybody needs to have some accountability in the work that why do people continue to do what they do and why they do it. So I'm gonna get ready to go off a tangent a little bit and just kind of look at some history real quick, and then I'm gonna wrap up. So the cardinal principles of making a Negro. So one of somebody I know who's a scholar, a griot, once said that the Willie Lynch was not true, or it wasn't a real, like, factual accounts of history. That may be true, but theoretically, the Willie Lynch is on point. And so when it talks about the making of a slave, that's real, theoretically very on point. And so the reason why I bring this up is because welfare plays a big part in this Willie Lynch theoretical foundation, because the slave master always knew how to keep his slaves in order by having him keep the black woman in check. And if everybody can pay attention right now, we are the targeted group. Black women are the targeted group. And the reason why we're the targeted group, because we are kind of like the polar opposite. So you got the white man, you got the black man, you got the white woman, then you got the black woman. And it don't take nothing for us to flip that over. And so the white man, regardless to what, they've always seen, they see value in the black woman more than just breeding her, or more than just taking advantage of her, but they've seen a lot of value in that woman. And because they dictate the narration of that woman, we get punished for that. So interestingly, like this, they kept the black man from us, first of all, and they made him humiliated. Okay, so this is kind of taking, I'm kind of taking snippets of this from the Willie Lynch theory. So what they did was they made us not be able to trust our black men. That was quick to bait us against each other, because if you can't save me, then I can't respect you as a man. So I have to depend on the same person who oppresses me to take care of me. When I say we in a plantation, we are, because that's what welfare turned into. So no, black women are not the main collectors of welfare. No, we are not. But we are the poster children of the welfare system, because it's not about welfare as it is about warfare. So yeah, we like the what they call welfare queens. It was never really about that. It was about separation and annihilation. When you talk about Queen Mother, Frances Cress Welsing, who did the ISIS papers, and she talks about um, genetic annihilation. In order for white supremacy to exist, they have to get rid of the key thing that can kill out white supremacy, and that's the black man. And so, although the black woman does have value, we have more value to the white man if the black man is not in the picture. Not just for breeding purposes, but just for the strength of what black represents in this whole world, not just this country. And so they noticed the power in this early on before everything got kicked off. And that's why they ended up doing what they did when they changed our status from indentured or being citizens to everybody becoming enslaved by like 1617 or something like that, right before the 1619 situation, when blacks were coming over here, not as cargo, and they were later on seen more profitable as slaves. And so going back to the black woman, so now the black woman has her son, and instead of her making her son independent, she makes him dependent. And so if you look at social conditioning, like Albert Bandera social conditioning, if you put a puppy with some cats, they're gonna start purring, right? And theoretically, I again, this is theoretical. This is not factual. This is theoretical. I always envisioned that the absence of the black man created puppies who purred, meaning that when a black mother is trying to teach her black son how to relieve himself, she sits him on the pot. And sitting him on the pot changes his biology, his DNA, because a man's supposed to stand up. But when the mom gets frustrated, she makes the boy frustrated. So in some kind of weird phenomenon, that's the early phase of stripping a male child from his masculinity by having him sit on the pot. Now there's other ways to strip a boy of his masculinity too, and we know that happens all the time as well. But mainly from a biological, theoretical process is that the single mother, in trying to teach her son how to, you know, eliminate the toxins out of his body by sitting him down when he's supposed to stand up. And that's what starts the chain of demasculation. So I know a lot of people can disagree with that. That's fine. I'm just saying that's my theoretical take on it. Therefore, it used to be a time when women, girls, stayed in their parents, under their parents' wing until they had a suitor come and meet the parents and say, I want to marry your daughter. Now you got your sons staying at home with their mom, while the girls go out here in the world on their own, raising children, and by multiple men. And again, I'm not here to chastise, demonize, or disrespect. I'm just saying how far a lot of us have went off of our own historical values, because the plantation, if you look at past and present, we are still doing the same plantation practices. And I don't want to, I don't have enough time to go into the core of these issues. I would do this in doses over time. But again, I want people to start having a seed planted in their head, how we are, not how we got here, but how we're still here. And so earlier today, I was thinking about, even though I don't identify as Christian anymore, I still identify with God, the creator. Please, must I mind you that I know that God is a creator. I just don't, the Christianity thing, as I said, is a triangulation that when you talk about Christianity, colonialism, and capitalism, and now you look at capitalism, white supremacy, and Christianity, they're all kind of intertwined into the way of oppressing people or oppressing groups. But one of the things that I was thinking about was that thing where it talks about the scale falling from your eyes. So Saul, I guess, had something go on where the scale um, fell from his eyes and he was able to see. And I look at what's going on now as that process where the scales are starting to fall from a lot of our eyes so that we can start seeing what's really going on. Some of us already had the scales removed from our eyes. And to be honest with you, for those who have done so, it is a challenge because, for some reason, Black folks do not like to listen to Black people. They just don't. And so if I'm saying something and it's like, I don't believe that, I don't agree with that, and then later on somebody else says it, and it's like, oh, it becomes golden. My thing is, as long as it's said, I don't care. If you don't want to hear me say it, that's fine. But as long as the message is there. And so, kind of going back to the woman. So, the Black woman has always been the queen of the world. She is. She just is. And that's why white supremacy is targeting her right now if you're not paying attention. So we need to have our sisters' backs and stop playing. And men, we love you. And I know I've watched certain things that say Black men feel ostracized right now. They feel, disconnected. But trust me, sir, these white supremacists don't care about you. Y'all both are men, but they're never going to align themselves with you. And it ain't all white folks, it ain't all white men, it ain't all white women, but it is enough to have a power play. And one of the reasons why I feel very disappointed is because during the time of 2019, when Milwaukee County was doing this anti racism, diversity, and inclusion process to so quickly flip that script real quick is very disheartening. That means that all the time when they was putting all that work in, they weren't genuinely doing that for long term purposes. Because it seems so crazy how everything got flipped right back to the old way, real quick, blink, and everything's back to white folks on top again. And and how DEI became a bad word and woke became a bad word, and how some of us, we walk in that shadow. We walk in that white supremacy mindset. And so, kind of going back to me dissecting the Willie Lynch theory, is that a lot of it starts from the plantation and how we got here, which nothing has changed. So, when we talk about the woman protecting the Black boy, she makes it regress where he cannot grow into a man. And so right now, when you see these shootings and killings, a lot of it is psychologically gender distortion, where the boys are very emotional and the girls are very emotional, but the way that we are built up, we are coming off opposite of rationality and compassion and nurturing, right? So you got these chicks out here want to be dudes, and these dudes out here going to be chicks. And that, now I'm not saying that in an LGBTQ manner. I'm saying it as in a psychological response way, where the boys are more hypersensitive than they were in previous years because of the lack of male influence. Okay, not to say that women have an excuse for being hysterical, right? Because the whole word history, historic, or the word his is like from hysterectomy, hysterical, is all associated with women. But we also got to look at how this the switching of how they recreated the Black family to have a matriarch, which black the Black race has always, we did adhere to the Black woman as queen mother, but not in the sense of being, excluding our Black men, if that makes sense. So yes, we are the only race of people that have a matriarch, which is a white patriarch creation, because they made us that way. However, we do have still a lot of respect culturally from the motherland to value our Black women in the sense of how we give life. So So we are different in that way compared to other racial groups where we do have a lot of love and reserve for our black women, just not in the way the white man try to flip it and make us the head of over black men by like demasculating the black man. And so we've helped in that process. Okay. And then part of that process was financial, right? So financially, using 53206 as an example real quick as I get ready to wrap up, like you guys know I always wrap up and it takes me about 15 more minutes to do so, is that kind of going back to the community where A.O. Smith was kind of like the financial hub of that area, and how 53206 was a very booming area at one point in time where black people owned homes and cars and kids was going to school. And then as they was coming up and they started to try to move out, the city was like, no, we got to shut this down, so we're going to get rid of A.O. Smith and we're going to close it down. And after that happened, crack came in, and then boom, everything just went off the kilter. So again, going back to the Gen X, myself and others, we didn't have the same financial opportunities as our parents did following their like high school to retirement lifestyles. We had nothing after high school if we didn't go to college, and a lot of us, I don't think was even college was on the plate at that time. And so again, we didn't have it going on, at least on the north side, that is. And then of course it became a ripple effect once A.L. Smith closed down. Then everything that was in that around surrounding like 2 to 3 mile radius around that also closed down, except for Master Lock, which happened to stay on for a couple of more years. But again, that period of time stripped the black man of his responsibility to his family, and that was intentional. And again, how soon people forget is that one thing led to another, which also meant that when the job moved out, black men or black women could not drive beyond certain perimeters of the city because then you get pulled over like driving while black. Okay. That's not that long ago. We don't have it as much anymore, but that's not that long ago. And so again, just to kind of, speak in right now, I feel like I'm speaking all over the place. Sorry. However, but thinking about the plantation and how the practice of how we are still oppressed, but the master no longer holds the whip. The master has now given the whip over to the model black person, and it's their job to keep all of us in line, because we look at them like, ooh, they got to come up. But their come up is never our come up. It's always a selfish act. I mean, looking at Jay-Z, how many people have he really put on? How many? He's a one-man show. I don't see no people underneath Jay-Z. All I see, Jay-Z, Jay-Z, Jay-Z. And I say this because, again, I'm kind of jumping around. But when I look at somebody like Master P, who pretty much started off kind of the same way Jay-Z did, he took a lot with him. He took a lot of people with him. And that's why he's successful, because he took a lot of people with him. But when you look at somebody like Jay-Z, who sits back in the cut and doesn't say much, because he know if he say anything, he's done for. And that goes back to show you that when black people stand up and speak out, they get taken out, usually by their own. And I know this because it happened to me. And although white people had a big part in it, it was some black folks that had their hand in it too, that just totally like played a part in it. And it's really kind of unfortunate, sad, because it does really break your heart when that happens. When that happens. So I'm not here to get pity party, dog. That's not what I'm here for. But I just want people to understand that going forward, I'm gonna be doing better and doing this too by watching what I say, because I heard a politician say something that I said last time, and I don't take it back what I said because it's not far from the truth. I just did not like hearing him repeat it or say it, because Black folks are not the only ones getting SNAP benefits or welfare, period. And the thing about it is, I was just telling some colleagues the other day too about how when they even on pamphlets and brochures, when they show like a woman or some kind of situation of neediness, they always put a picture of a Black woman up there or a Black family, and it always makes us look like we're the ones that need handouts. And a lot of times white people were like, well, Black folks just did more and worked harder, and that's a lie. That's a lie. I would say this: I always was a Black person who was able to get a job but not keep a job. Not that I got fired, because usually they couldn't fire me because of the stuff they wanted me gone for. And that's a difference. Because a lot of people would say, oh, Terry, you had multiple jobs. You was working here, you was working there, whatever. I would say this, and I probably won't repeat this again. Every job that I ever had my whole life, except for one, was a door closed and another door open. So it was never like I take two steps back. Every job was, no matter what it ended up like, I was moving forward. Still to this day, I move forward. However, what people don't know is, like I say, and I say it jokingly, but it's true. My mouth gets me in a lot of trouble because I say things that are not popular, and I say things people would say I would have never said that. But like I know, and like I've said many times, closed mouths don't get fed. And right now we're living in a moment where we should have said something, because now we're trying to say something, and what now it's falling on deaf ears. And so what could have happened a long time ago, when I say long time ago, I'm talking about 40, 50, 60 years ago, we should have never we should have never stopped talking about our rights as people. And then you got somebody like me who comes along and I say something unpopular, right? I say opinion you hated, then I'm the wrong person, instead of looking at the wrong in what people are doing that I'm speaking of. And I try to protect or defend or have the people's back who are putting stuff out there that is true. And just because you don't know it don't mean it's not true, because a lot of stuff we can't prove, because racism is like carbon dioxide. It's invisible, but it's deadly. And it's been that way. It is gaslighting. Gas is another deadly thing that can kill us without being seen or heard. And so we have been masterfully manipulated in this country, not only by them but also our own, because we are quick to um, talk about what ain't true and what is this and what is that, when we've all been conditioned to believe the lie. The history books, the teachers, everybody is conditioned to the lie. And then when somebody steps out of that, they get blasphemy or blasted on, as they're the wrong person for speaking up on. It could be theoretical, it can be hypothetical, it could be everything, but people think it's true. But yet we're in the same situation. Some young lady had to defend herself about MPS against somebody who felt like they were not being honest. First of all, MPS is Milwaukee Public School System. MPS, government. We know for a fact that part of oppression comes through our school systems. Everything that Trump put a sticky note on is stuff that is going to disenfranchise us. Healthcare, food, school, education, everything that we could have done ourselves, but refused to do. A couple of years ago, I discussed with some church leaders about a storehouse. I still want to know why on earth, with all these churches, we don't have a storehouse. Where that storehouse, as a collective, could have made it where we wouldn't have to beg the government to save us. We have no hospitals. We have no schools. We have no grocery stores. Some of us don't even have ourselves. We are in such a vulnerable situation because we have been ruled by white supremacy. Because when people have tried to wake people up, they had the door closed on them, made to feel like they fools, made to be, girl, you should have kept your mouth shut. You could have still been doing this stuff. I don't want to be at a table full of liars and crooks. I can't do it. And I don't need to have a voice. You know, a lot of people that got their positions because they're not saying enough. And we know that to be true. Matter of fact, I'm not going to say this person's name, but when this person was out here saying a lot of stuff, they were calling her ghetto and uncouth, and because she telling the truth. Because when you tell the truth, or when you say what's really said, you uncouth, or you a troublemaker. And that's why, a lot of us ain't gonna never, like Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed a whole lot more slaves if they knew they were slaves. And that's a truth. I know people who are black that voted for Trump. And all I did was shake my head and just like mourn. I mourned the fact that whatever your reasons was vote for Trump, that's heartbreaking, because there's no reason to vote for that man regardless to whatever. Let's say hypothetically, even if he wasn't a 34 account felon, he still did an insurrection and he still was a horrible president the first time around. He shouldn't have even been president the first time around. So again, that the United States of America, everybody needs to look at themselves and ask themselves, instead of being critical of everybody else, and ask themselves, what role did you play in how we got here? And after this, and then also keep in mind one more thing, how it's quick. This is true. How it's quick to say slavery happened a long time ago. No, it didn't. It's still happening. It's a mindset, though, right? It's a mindset. They could talk about everything else but slavery. And we finna be back there again. I said this. I said we're gonna be back slaves again. No, we not. How ain't that again? I'm like, boy, my people so stupid. I became a human service professional the year when Clinton was in office and turned AFDC into TANF. And I remember back when, I don't know if my family members remember this conversation, but I remember back when I was telling them that the government is going to cut you guys off of welfare. Y'all ain't going to have nothing to take care of y'all kids anymore. And what the choir was saying was, they can't do that. They can't do that. They can't take welfare away from us. And I was like, the government can do whatever they want to do. And the reason why I knew that, because I read books about the government. And I knew how the government operated. They don't care. And they're white supremacists. Well, the government is white supremacy. And so I knew that. And so not long after that, when I was an outreach worker, my second year as a human service professional, I was an outreach worker when women and children While they did the 91 indictment, sweeping up Milwaukee streets with all the drug dealers, then the women had their welfare taken from them. And Milwaukee went through a transition that has not yet to recover because you're too dependent. We all are. We're all too dependent. So this message is, I hope that during this period of time, as we unify in crisis, that we will stay unified in building an infrastructure that we never have to be begging the government to take care of us and the people that are in this community. Because it should not even be like this. We should not be this vulnerable. And that's just keeping it 100. Now, you can agree or disagree, whatever. But we should not be in a position where we're vulnerable. Black people, we've been through this too many times to keep going through it. We should know by now who cannot be trusted. We should know by now who is who and what is what. We should know this by now. And while we around here too singing the same freaking bull crap language that they singing, well, slavery happened a long time ago. That happened a long time ago. None of it stopped. It's the wallpaper. It changed. The wallpaper changed. The wall hasn't changed. So we getting ready to go another round of begging for our basic needs. Massa, please don't take our food. Massa, don't burn our houses down, Massa. Don't take our Section 8, Massa. Yeah, some of us need help. But we know from the 80s when we were forced on welfare and seen benefit of welfare and had now created generations of welfare to where and how we got here now. And I know this is not a popular statement. So what are we going to do differently so y'all can shut me up? And I know this well because I've been around for a while, and you don't have to agree with me. And you can cancel me if you want to. I don't care because the truth is the truth. So yeah, I will be a part of the solution, but I'm definitely not going to be quiet about the problem because not talking about it got us here. Shutting people up got us here. Nobody wants to hear about the negative. Well, then stop making it negative. Stop doing stuff that gets us back in these situations. As a community, Black folks, we are still on the plantation. And we're going to stay that way because we need to start learning not to take handouts. We don't take care of our own. We have so many churches, but we don't have nothing else. We don't have nothing else. You go into 53206, and there's probably over 100 churches in that zip code alone, but there's nothing else there. Nothing. Nothing. And that's not a lie. That's not an exaggeration. And I sat at tables, and I had plans, and I spoke them plans up, and these plans got stolen from me and skewed out by a white man who rather see my ideas go to the house of correction, meaning that the brothers and sisters had to be locked up in order to learn a trade instead of learning the trade on the street. I had a whole plan that got thrown out the window, and Black people co-signed on me getting away from the table. Don't think I don't know that. So I guess they can have a better seat. I don't know. So if I sound angry about it right now, I probably am still bitter because it kind of makes me mad to have been a part of something to see it go belly up because people have self-interest versus people who really trying to keep it 100. And again, I've seen some of the 100 people be kicked out of certain sets because the people who want self-interest and want to be clout chasing be at these tables just clout chasing instead of really doing sustainable work. Sustainable. The key word here is sustainable. What has been sustainable for the Black community in Milwaukee? Now we got two leaders that are Black. What is sustainable? So that's all I have to say for today. And I think I'm gonna make it my plan to be back next week because I can. And I'll probably have something different to talk about, maybe. I don't know. But for now, you guys have a good weekend and I will see you next week. Bye.